Well, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the home build. As you can see, we got some framing going on, which I'm pretty excited about. It's been a long process, been waiting for the framing crew. We had one framing crew that got COVID, so they were out 3 weeks and then they quit to go work for someone else. So bringing in another crew from another job site, it took about 6 weeks. So here we are 6 weeks later and we're finally getting some walls. So very excited. On this video, we're going to be going through and showing you the different framing methods, what's happening for my house, the connections, the layout for plates, top and bottom plates, that sort of thing, where they go, show you some details and some drawings, some posts. So we got a lot to show you, and I want to try to make this as short a video as possible, but it's going to be a couple series videos. I'll be showing the first floor, then will be the second floor framing, will be another video, and then the floor, that is the second floor walls, and will be a separate video, and then as well as the trusses when they get going, that'll be a separate video as well. I don't want to go too much, it'll be too long a video. So here we are, let's get started. I'll show you some of the mistakes but fixes for what's been happening, and solutions, because you know most of the time there is a solution, and we'll go through that. So let's go ahead and get started. So right now what they got left, they still have the garage walls to get in. They got some of the other walls started, some of the sheathing on the walls, the exterior walls, the interior walls, they're still working on. You know, everybody gets a day off, so they get a day off today and they'll be back on it probably first of next week. But this is what it's going to be kind of looking like from the inside. And first off, let's talk about plates. So a wall is going to have a double top plate and a bottom plate. These are the components in it. Okay, we got our standard stud. Our layout is 16-inch on center, so that means from center to center is 16 inches. We got blocking. We got a wall that's going to go here, so special type of blocking. If our wall is 2x6, which is what that is, we're going to need at least 2x6 plus a stud, and plus about 1.5 inches or so on each side, inch. But that's for backer for sheetrock to have something to nail to. So even though the framers are only doing framing, they got to think about other trades as well coming in. Got to give the sheetrockers something to nail to. So that's kind of what that is. In the corners, like over here, they're going to have to add another stud here, but they got a hold down. So down here, they're going to put a bracket, and they'll probably add a stud up here on top to give sheetrock something to nail to. This wall right here, it only needs to be a single stud because it already has something to nail to. There are several different types of corner details. This particular one is done this way just because of that hold down there. I'll show you some others, some different applications. They're a 2 stud, so they can get insulation back in here. So top and bottom plate, studs, the connections. So this particular wall, how it connects is called a butt wall. Okay, this wall is a through wall. It goes on by. A through wall usually goes all the way to the end. Okay, so another through wall going to this end. These framers are doing it a little bit different. Usually when I'm framing, I'll have all through walls going one direction, and then butt walls all the opposite direction, so that there's never a confusion. Here they're mixing a through wall with a butt wall. That's their choice. Probably something to do with the 4x6 that's there, and that sort of thing. So here's another corner detail right here. I can get insulation here. I can dry it out, so that's important. But it's a 2 stud corner. And then the butt wall is just a single stud. Gives sheetrock something to nail to, dry out, airflow, and then insulation get tucked in behind. This particular wall, we're going to add a few things, because you can see a post out there, that concrete post. It's going to get a 6x6 column or post right in here, as well as over here. That's why there's a stud missing. Well, there's several reasons. This stud's missing because we got to add another stud here for that hold down. Okay, we'll get into that in a sec. And then once that's in, screwed off, the hold down that is, then this column, which is sitting right out here, that can go here. So the engineer calls for the header, which is up here at the head, to not be continuous. If it was continuous, it could be a weaker wall, so they don't want that continuous. But anyhow, back to the framing members. So here's a windowsill. Up here we have header, a full height header, and then they will insulate this side of that header. What that does, it gives us a thermal break between the wood and the insulation. That insulation gives it a thermal break. The R value of a standard stud is not as much as what's in the wall, so that gives it a little bit more energy efficient home when you have a header like that. There's still a spot for sheetrock to nail to. The outside, it's going to have full nailing for the sheathing for the and as well as the window and that sort of thing. Cripples are down here at the bottom. So this is a windowsill cripple. If your headers do not go full height, then you'd have cripples up there as well. And you're maintaining your 16 on center all the way through for your cripples, starting at one end, going all the way. So including the cripples, including your standard studs. Right here on the side, which supports your header, so you can see the connection here, that's a trimmer. Then we have king studs. So in this case, 2 king studs, 1 king stud, 1 trimmer. When we have a window width that is 6 feet or greater, that's what the engineer calls for, you need to have 2 studs, or excuse me, 2 trimmers. So right here, we got 2 trimmers, a single king stud. So that king stud keeps things from twisting, bowing out. But the 2 trimmers gives it extra bearing for that header. So up here, looks to me like they're gonna need to add a couple more 2x10s up there to give it the proper header depth. Okay. Moving over to the next wall. So we got some 2 stud corner here. The reason these are put in here is on the other side, it gives the 2 walls something to nail to. So if we went over on this side, you should be able to see the layout. So right down here we have a little chase that's going to be happening. For plumbing, can happen on that side. Plumbing could happen on this side. The shower is going to be on this side. Someday I'm going to be putting in a tiled-in shower on this side, removing that and putting in a closet. That's the future plan. But for here, this little wall needs something to nail to, so those 2x6s on the other side gives that something to nail to. Okay, right in here we're gonna have another wall. Okay, and eventually they're gonna need to add, and you can kind of see how the double top plate is broke right there at the top. And the reason for that is for this wall to tie into that wall. That's how your double top plates lap over and splice. But they're gonna need to add some framing there for this wall to nail into. Okay. Let's see. Double top plates, they're important. They are not supposed to break in the center. So right there, that should have been cut on the center of a stud. But they do lap over and tie one wall in to the next. We'll see if the inspector catches that, which is me, which I just did. So anyhow, this wall right here, there's no sheathing on it. Okay, it's not required. I'll have to look at the set of plans to verify that. Sometimes interior walls like this get sheathing. Reason this does is because up above is going to be a second floor, and it's going to continue on up, and it needs that shear value from earthquake, wind loads. In our area, it's more wind loads than earthquake, but there is that potential earthquake. Here we got another blocking as well. That's gonna be nailing in for this outer. Here's our front door framing. So it's done a little bit different. The header's still all the way at the top, but they got this blocked in area. The reason for that is the window or the door is not as tall, but that gives their trimmers the same height, so they're not changing any of that. The ideally is if I wanted to change it eventually, I could go with a taller window, or excuse me, a taller door, but that's not going to be happening. That's way down on the list. Right here, they're going to be framing in a section right here, because how this particular door is set up is going to have a window on the side. Here's the door, but that window doesn't go full height. Okay, so they're leaving that, and they're going to be framing that little section in right there. This right here is not supporting any weight above. The header is. The header's carrying the weight of the floor joists and the second floor and the roof and all that sort of weight transferring down, going to the trimmers. Okay, and the trimmers are held in place by the king studs. Okay, so this area is just a filler. It's just filled in for your sheetrock, for your sheathing on the outside. They could have done it reverse, have the cripples and stuff up above, the header down low, but at least this way, they maintain the same trimmers. Their headers are all at the same elevation. It keeps things simple. So that's pretty much the nutshell of it. Something I wanted to note was your walls. So here's a door. The bottom plate carries through. The bottom plate carries through over there. It's easier to frame and stand walls when that carries through than if it was cut out in the beginning. Eventually, that will get cut out and for the floor to carry through. But during framing, those are never, hardly ever cut out before they stand the wall. Okay, so same thing here. Same thing, this wall here, they made this one assembly and then stand it up.
Housekeeping!
There's the project manager.
That's a lunch lady.
The lunch lady. So this bottom plate right here is going to eventually get cut out, but not cut out to here. It's going to get cut out right there, and they're going to add some framing there. So that's a great start. There's still always going to be some pickup, and that'll probably be a little bit of my job is doing some of the pickup work, but because it helps the flow of the project, keeps the framers happy, and they can focus on the framing instead of all the other miscellaneous stuff. So all right, for laying out a top and bottom plate, there's several methods. The main method is that you're able to communicate to the next person of what your intentions are, where your studs are, where your king studs are, your trimmers, where your headers are, your cripples, all that sort of thing needs to be communicated on your top and bottom plate. And it has to be in such a way that the other person that's going to be doing the framing, which sometimes isn't the person doing the layout, understands what their intention is. So for right here, for this method, might be different than your method, but this was a method that they did. They're actually marking centers. So this particular wall, what should be done first is the layout of where your walls are and where your door openings are. So in this case, what the wall that we're going to be looking at is this wall right here. This direct all the way to this corner to this corner right here. A little close up on it. So we got a 2'8", 6'8", so 2'8" wide, 6'8" tall. It's a double door, so that would be 5 foot 4 inches. Okay, and then we also have over here 2'4" by 6'8" tall. So here is our, that little door is going to be right here for this bathroom. So this area right in here underneath the stairs is a half bath. Here's our door opening. I'll go over that in a sec. And here's our double door right here. So from the layout where it starts, in this particular case, it doesn't give a dimension left to right, but right here on this side, there should be 2 studs on that side of that wall. So seeing where that wall is this particular wall right here. So this red line right there, it's going to have backing, which is what they're indicating right there. So we have a king stud, which is normally an X or a K. I mark a K, just that's my method. A T for trimmer, and then from there is where the door opening starts. So looking back at the plans, we came up with that 5'4", and that's your door. So on each side, you're going to have 3/4 jam, plus a 1/4 inch for shimming, and plus a 1/4 inch for shimming. So instead of it being your rough framing, because this is the stage we're in, rough framing, instead of being 5'4", you got to add an inch on this side, add an inch on that side, makes it 5'6". So here's our 2 studs, our king stud trimmer, 5'6". Coming over to 0, we got our trimmer and king stud. Make sure that trimmer is on the outside. Don't make your opening smaller. That's a common mistake a lot of times. So trimmer's above it. It's only 6'8" tall, so there should be trimmers above it, unless they do some sort of framing like that. So, which I doubt, but it's probably going to have a plate and cripples, kind of like it is here. So from there, you can lay out your standard stud. Their method is marking 16 on center, 16 on center, and so forth, and the line is the center. I like to mark 15 1/4 and put an X on this side. 15 1/4, X on this side. Maybe some people are going to say, well, that's more work, a few more marks, but for me, in a sense, it's idiot proof. It's telling the person it's on this side where you put it. A line, okay, I've seen it many times where somebody might put the stud on this side of that line or that side. They're just kind of guessing and they're not sure. To be idiot proof, put the C for center, right down the center for center line. Okay. So, but here's our opening. It does get cripples through the head of the opening, so they're maintaining that same on center layout, and they're going to keep on going through to where that bathroom is, because if they don't, then the sheetrockers are going to have to cut their sheetrock, and it doesn't create as clean and nice of a joint. So let's take a look at the door for the bathroom. All right, let's looking back at the set of plans. This 2'4" door. So think about it. Instead of it being just 2'4", you got a jamb on one side, jamb on the other. That's 3/4 and 3/4, plus 1/4 inch shimming, plus 1/4 inch shimming. So you're adding an inch on each side. So that makes that 2'6" wide for rough opening. For height, 6'8",
You need to add another inch for the height. So the rough opening is going to be from sheathing 6 foot 9 inches tall. So not worrying about that yet, because that does affect your trimmers. For here, we need a 2 foot 6 inches wide. So the center wall, 2 foot wall, 2 by 4 wall, so 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, a king stud, trimmer, and then from there to your next trimmer needs to be 2 foot 6, and looks to me like, shorten my tape up, that is exactly what they're doing here. So a trimmer and another king stud, still having these center lines. That's for the cripples above, got to have that for sheetrock. This over here, this TP, so for right here, we're going to have a connection between here and this wall up in the ceiling. That's what these marks are here. 2 double stud, up above. They're going to support a through wall or through plate, and that helps lock everything in for shear. There will be a beam over here, 35 and a quarter tall wall up at the top, and then it's going to have a 6 by 6. That's what this is right in here. So even though there's lines snapped on the ground, there's no wall here. It's for layout up above. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of laying out for a top and bottom plate. Sometimes you got to do things a little different, such as this case right here. We got a 2 by 4 framed wall, 2 by 6, 2 by 4. The reason for it broke up like that is plumbing. Okay, we got plumbing on this side. That side of the wall is straight. This side, it jogs in. So we're gonna have a little pony wall here, a closet with a door that side, another pantry closet with a door on this side. But this particular one, it needs extra depth for your 2-inch plumbing to go through, and as well as other plumbing. But this particular plumbing's for a refrigerator. This plumbing here is for, it could be for both a dishwasher on that side, excuse me, not dishwasher, washer on this side, nothing on that side. So on this side, there's no sink, there's no dishwasher, but there is a refrigerator. Over here, we're gonna have an island with a sink and a dishwasher, and that's what all this plumbing is gonna be for. So this plumbing over here goes up into the wall. I'll have to check with that, because I was expecting that plumbing to be inside the wall. So some things get modified and some things get laid out wrong, and then they have to get fixed. So to me, looking back here at this wall goes all the way through. That plumbing's outside that wall. So to me, what that means is that plumbing is in the wrong location. So that's gonna have to get fixed by the plumbers. All right, over in this corner, I added a stud. Then I added this hold down. So the hold down needs to be up off of the base plate, bolted in, nut and washer. So this is the washer that comes with it, so it has to have that. Also, so it's not tightened down yet to a certain torque, which the framers, I'm gonna have them do. But now that that's all in and screwed off, because you wouldn't be able to screw it very well with this post here, now I'm going to add that post that's out there right here in this opening. So here we go. All right, now let's talk about wall sheathing. So a few different requirements. If it's just a regular wall, the sheathing on it, according to the plan, let's see, provide exterior wall sheathing, 7/16 CDX minimum, span rating with 8D nails, so 8 penny nails at 6 and 12. So 6-inch on center, on the edges, and 12 inches in the field. If it's a shear wall, which I have two different types of shear walls, it shows here for shear wall spacing, depending on what it's indicated, it could be a 6 and 12 or a 4 and 12. So turn on the page, because there's a few issues that we do have, and I'm going to show them. This is the foundation. And then right here indicates a shear wall there, a shear wall here, here. Those are all B's. B's highlighted in pink just to highlight knowing where they're at. So B, all of those locations around the perimeter of a single sheet of plywood, it should be 4-inch on center. On the edges, 12 inches. Let me double check that. For some reason 12 is not enough. That's, yep, 12 inches on out in the field. So the other ones, shear wall A, the other type, there are different walls. On the outer perimeter, on the, that would be west side. So from line here to line there, that's just got to be 6 and 12, 6 and 12. Just about everywhere else, though, is 4 and 12. The wall that is right here that's sheathed right down the middle, that's what this wall is here. And mainly from the garage, inside the garage needs to be 4 and 12. So we'll take a look at that. A couple things that they did do incorrectly, in my opinion, okay, by doing this for almost 23 years now. I teach this as well. So what we got here, here is our plywood sheathing. Okay, you can buy, by the way, sheets of OSB and plywood 4 foot by 8 foot tall, 4 foot by 9, and 10 foot tall. So I have a 9-foot ceilings in here. This plywood should be 10 foot tall. That means it should be sticking up just like this other side here. On the second floor, there's a rim joist that goes around. That plywood should be nailing onto that rim joist, and then the wall above should be nailing and splicing on that rim joist. Here, where they have it, they actually cut it for some strange reason. And what it was is they were using 9-foot sheets of plywood instead of, which is for the second floor, instead of 10-foot sheets, which should be for the first floor. So they ended up cutting it. Two things went wrong with that is they're splicing it on a joint of the top plate. If they were centered on one of those top plates, I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't be okay with it, but I would allow it. But where it currently is spliced right in the center. So it's just the nails from the double top plate going to be holding this together, including some required strapping. Well, so I'm going to have them, and they agreed to rip all of this sheathing off along this whole face here and replace it with 10-foot sheets. That 10-foot sheets is the correct way so it can splice on that rim joist. To me, it allows for a stronger wall, stronger connections, and that sort of thing. So some to come would be watching them replace this, extend it up, doing it correctly. Okay, so our spacing. So if you recall, since this is going to get replaced, I'm going to not talk about that as much, but this wall right here, from what I remember, should be 6 and 12 for our nail spacing. So let's measure this. And this, by the way, is what an inspector will do. He's going to verify. So it needs to be at least 6 inches, and right now they're about 4. So hey, that works. 4. One thing that they did do incorrectly is right here. the joint. They did not allow for an 1/8 inch expansion. So whether or not they did have one, it rained on it, it swelled, maybe, I doubt it. But there should be an 1/8 inch gap there, 1/8 inch there, 1/8 inch there, 1/8 inch there, and so forth. These sheets, so you can buy sheets that are an 1/8 inch under. So pulling it right now from that end to here, it is by factory an 1/8 inch under. So here's the end result of not doing it. Two things. So we got 1/8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7/8, and then 1 inch. So right here, all of this nailing is not into this stud. It kept sliding that direction. This particular piece also is a cut piece because it would have been 1 1/8 inches short if you added up all those 1/8. It should have had the spacing, so therefore they had to end up replacing it with this cut piece. So I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. Look at all those shiners, is what those are called. Those nails, they missed them all because it's not on the proper layout. So make sure you have an 1/8 inch space. It says it on the plywood from the factory. If you read the verbiage on it, it'll say 1/8 inch spacing. Okay. I've noticed in the drawings for the sheathing of the roof, when we get to that, there should be a 1/4 inch spacing, which that is pretty large, but they should get H clips. So we'll see on that and follow up on that. But the importance of having that, so that was 1. 2, the second importance, here look, you can see these shiners right here too, because they're just a little bit short. Their lines aren't quite right. Okay. The other is, if it gets wet for a long period of time, which we're into the rainy season here in Oregon now, so likely going to get wet. If and when that does swell, it's going to buckle and it's going to wave in between every single stud. I have actually had that happen before and had to replace it because early on, before I knew, I did the exact same thing, and that was the cause of it. So inspector saw it, he made me redo it, thanking later on, I guess, thanking that inspector for doing it right. Otherwise, my siding can be doing this weaving in and out type of thing as well, because it is going to expand, okay, if it gets wet. If it stays dry, we're good. But the likelihood of it getting wet at this time of year is pretty high. So actually in a couple days it's supposed to rain again. So every little bit's going to cause it to swell. It's OSB, okay? And also OSB doesn't shrink. Okay, plywood tends to shrink back, but it doesn't. So my deck right here is OSB. This is all, quote unquote, rated for weather, okay? But even though they did supposedly a spacing, it's starting to buckle right in here, ramps up. So that all affects my flooring. So later on, what's going to need to happen is sanding it or planing it, one or the other, so that I have a nice flat floor. This in here is going to be carpet. It'll still transfer through into the carpet, and you're going to see those little bumps. So that's something later on that I'll have to fix and address. Not right now, because it could still rain and that sort of thing. So plywood sticking up, that's what it should look like. Okay, these little spots right here that are knocked out, that was for lifting purposes. They must have used wall jacks to raise the wall. There was only 3 of them. This was a good sized wall, so they probably used wall jacks in order to use them. They got to notch it out, and then they nailed that replacement piece on the other side after they there's the sun right there, but the little piece right there, that's so they can nail it on later. So that's the beginning stages of the framing. got my posts in for my back patio, my future back patio. Got my 6x6, 6x6, 4x6, and that sort of thing. Got that in, and as well as some more interior framing. So hopefully you learned something. I'm gonna make this one kind of a short. It's not the full view of the framing, so will be the first floor is going to be two videos. So hopefully enjoyed this video, learned something. If anything, if you're new to framing, learned what studs are, trimmers, cripples, all that sort of thing, how they go together, how some simple layout goes. If you're wanting to see more detail on layout, I have another plate layout video, so scroll through my channel to my videos. It's one of those early on videos. So other than that, this is a wrap for today, and I'll see you next time on the Home Build.